Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to Transforming 45. I'm your host, Lisa Boat. In this podcast, we dive deep into the transformative power of storytelling. I firmly believe that stories have the magical ability to heal, inspire, and connect us. That's why I'm here to bring you the incredible stories of women who have journeyed through life's ups and downs and emerged as their most authentic selves. We'll explore stories of resilience, reinvention, and the courage it takes to embrace change. It's a space where authenticity shines, where the messy and the beautiful moments of life come together to create something truly extraordinary. So, brilliant listeners, get ready for a roller coaster of emotions, a burst of inspiration, and a whole lot of love. Transforming 45 is not just a podcast, it's a movement, a celebration of incredible humans who light up the world. I'm so grateful you are here, and I can't wait to embark on this transformative journey with you. Let's dive in and start transforming together. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Transforming 45. This week, I am thrilled to welcome Dr. LaKeisha Webb McMillan. She was born and raised in Huntsville, Alabama. She earned her undergraduate degree in biology cum laude from Oakwood College and now Oakwood University, and continued her studies at Loma Linda University School of Medicine. In addition to her academic degrees, Dr. LaKeisha is certified in the use of the Da Vinci robotic system for minimally invasive laparoscopic surgery. Her ability to reach and teach women has expanded through her bestseller, The Other PMS, TM, Your Survival Guide for Perimenopause and Menopause. Her passion for helping women in perimenopause and menopause included her contribution to being on the advisory board for the only FDA-approved physician-designed vaginal lube line, Momentum Intimacy. I am so excited to have this conversation with you today. There are so many things to get into. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Lisa. I'm so excited to have this conversation. This is where I will spend a long time talking. So you have to just guide me and tell me it's time to be quiet. It's time to wrap up. We got to go. The patience of the saints have worn out. All the euphemisms. Okay. So you just let me know when it's time to wrap it up.
I got you. Don't you worry. But I am really looking forward to all of it. So, and all of the wisdom and the knowledge that you bring to this. So I am happy for you to just let it all flow out for the benefit of everybody who is listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So tell me, who are you and how did life introduce you to this version?
Oh, I love that question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question that way. So I really appreciate this question. As you said in my bio, I was raised in Huntsville, Alabama. If you're from Huntsville, you'll actually say Huntsville. So
Okay.
people really from Huntsville. And I was blessed to be in a two-parent household. My parents are educators. I have a younger brother who actually looks like my older brother because he stands so tall over me. And we had a really nice community where I grew up. It's a small, Christian-based community. And my parents, it's so funny. My brother and I would say, Mom was our coach, right? She ran all the plays. Dad was our cheerleader. Like we could run in the house and say, we're going to go to the moon. I want to be an astronaut. And then he would go, yes, you could do it. Absolutely. Mom would put out all the pencil and papers and the plans and the spreadsheets and like, okay, how are we doing this? Right. And so it was around 12 years old when I was introduced through a videotape. So y'all know I'm dating myself now. My mother was helping. She was a college professor and was helping. My memory has it that she was helping at a community center, and they were doing some trainings, helping new mothers, that were about to welcome in their new babies. And she brought this video home that was called either The Miracle of Life or Birth, one of those variations. I popped it in the VCR, and the end of it showed a live birth. And I was just like, that's super cool. I want to do that. So when
I remember watching that video too, and I had a very different response. Please continue.
most people would have been like, oh my gosh, right? I leaned toward the television and was like, you can do that? Like that's something you can actually do? And so I said to my parents, I want to be a doctor. That's all I knew. I was just like, I want to be a doctor. And they both lovingly said, we're educators, we're teachers. We don't know medicine. You need to find yourself around a doctor. So from the time I was 13, I went to Dr. Hick's office and I started filing away lab reports and people's paper charts. Yes, the old fashioned go pull it out, open up, undo the little buckle, put the paper there. And I was able to do everything in that office, from getting patients scheduled, from learning how to follow the nurse in the back, to getting patients checked in, checking their vitals, going on rounds with Dr. Hicks. And I ultimately went to his alma mater, which is Linda University School of Medicine. And, being able to do that really helped me really solidify, oh, yes, I want to be a doctor. And then I was even like, yes, women's health, this is awesome. So, I say to people, if you look at my highlight reel, from being featured on the own Oprah TV network as a featured, perimenopause, menopause specialist, to being featured on platforms such as this, like podcasts and women's platforms and panel discussions, and being this now international menopause whisperer, it didn't always start right here. So if you could agree with me, and if your community could agree with me, there are certain times in your life where you will not forget. It's just it's indelibly impressioned in your spirit, in your being even. And one of those times is April 2nd, 2009. And that is when my husband had to come to my hospital and tell me my father had passed away that morning. And like I said, tight-knit family, close-knit family, it was as if the rug had just been ripped from underneath us. And I remember feeling as if I was in free fall. 10 short months later, we lose my grandmother. And so we're still just like, oh my goodness, reeling from this. And I remember one time sitting on labor and delivery in the midst of all of this vortex that I was in now, and saying, you know what, I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore. Mm-hmm. I remember one night sitting there, my blood pressure was 160 over 110. And the nurse is saying to me, Doc, do you need to go to the ER? Like, what's going on? I remember when my text messages would go off from the pager system, and I would just be mad at my patients now. Like, what do you want? Why are you wanting to talk to me tonight? That type of a reaction, which was not me. And so I took a step back. I took the sabbatical. At this time, our youngest is a year old. She had just turned a year old. And I talked to my office manager, and she was like, yeah, why don't you take a sabbatical and let's see. 2 months into my sabbatical, I called her back and she said, I know you're not coming back. I do not believe that this is my assignment anymore in this way. So taking that step back, going through therapy, understanding what was going on in my body. When I say understanding, I really started taking deeper dives into what some people call functional medicine, what some people call integrative medicine. I was doing labs, getting labs drawn. I was diving into supplementation, and got back to my roots of biochemistry, actually. So I did graduate with a biology degree, but I started as a biochemistry degree. Biochemistry major, and went into the world of biology because of a opportunity to do some research. But my core, I love biochemistry and understanding how the body works. And as I am doing this and peeling back these layers, I'm also understanding and realizing that I have this gift of teaching. That it is not just a patient coming in and I get to a diagnosis and give them a label, but I'm able to teach them what's going on in their body and taking this complex concept and making it very relatable. And so it was at this time that I decided, hey, I can actually contribute to women's health in a new and different way. And that's how I basically kind of reinvented myself. And now I show up as Dr. LaKeisha, your international menopause whisperer, hormone specialist, speaker, and best-selling author. And I help women to validate their perimenopausal, menopausal symptoms and give them tools to take back control of their bodies again.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that journey. And I'm so glad that you are in this space and doing this work. And it is so interesting to me that a theme that is really starting to emerge through this show in all the conversations I've had is that as grief as a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's deeply woven into my own story. You know, when you talk about those moments that are so burned into your brain, I'll never forget. For me, it was, I mean, there's two elements of that, but the day that my dad called me to say that my mom was in the hospital. And I still remember, like, I was sitting on the floor with my two babies. I had one that was not even 6 months old yet. And I can still remember the dust motes floating through the air and the way the sun came through the crack in the window. And I just knew in that moment that life was never going to be the same again.
Absolutely.
And then the same when she actually passed a few months later. Same thing. I just knew from that moment on, nothing was ever going to be the same again. And it took a decade, more than a decade, for it to fully come to fruition. But absolutely, that grief experience was the catalyst for, what am I going to learn from this? And how am I going to live my life in a way that feels really true and authentic to me? So that
Yes.
when it is my time, I feel like I came here and I did everything I was meant to do and I used it all up.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I used it all up.
Yeah.
Nothing is unturned. No stone is unturned, and you do not go with that regret.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because what I want to be able to do is the day that I leave this world, have it be a celebration
Yes.
of, like, look, that life I lived.
Yes. Yes.
That was a badass life.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I am here for all of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then we hit this phase of midlife, which again is that, actually it is the same theme. It is transformation and grief.
Yes.
Because there's nothing like midlife to bring forth the fact that this story is moving.
Mm-hmm.
The story that I'm moving that I've been living is moving along, and it's moving into a place that I've never been before. And most of the time, I talk about this a lot, it's a time I did not even consider. I never even imagined what this phase of life would be.
Yes.
So having not only the emotional, but the physical changes that make it impossible for you to look away, I really think it's that time of transformation through grief.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I couldn't have said it better. It's one of those times of reflection. Like, it's like, okay, what has brought me to this point? And then what am I going to do with all of this that makes up me and the new aspects of me, and move forward? Because it is a new, and I talk about how we all got the talk 2.0. We got that, okay, your body's about to change. You're going to go into adolescence. Oh my gosh, this is, you're going to become a woman, or whatever that, means for your culture, your heritage, who you are, your community, your family. And then it's this whole, okay, your body's going to change. You're going to have something called a period. You're going to have, things that are going to feel different. This is how it happened for me. This is how it happened for your aunts or people in your community. And you get to this place around your 20s, for those that don't have too many other complications that that would contribute to their cycle. And they're like, okay, I know it comes every 28 days or 30 or 32 days. I know how many tampons or pads I'm going to use. I know which clothes I can fit during this time. I know how I'm going to, and then we come to this time where it's like, whoa, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
I missed a memo. I just woke up in a body I do not recognize. And and the things that I used to do to be able to get this body to do what I wanted it to do not work anymore. And so now what do I do?
Absolutely. Like, yes to everything you just said. And I feel like this is a bit of a drum I've been banging lately. Like, as a former educator, well, no, I am still an educator. I just educate in another way now. But I taught like from grade 4 to grade 6 for a long time. So I'm really familiar with that element of the health curriculum.
Yes.
Right? The growth and change curriculum is what it's called in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And it absolutely does not look at the full cycle of what happens to a woman's body. Yes, we learn about puberty. We learn about this change that's going to happen. We learn about the gestation of babies and how that happens. And then there's this sort of offside comment of like, oh, well, and then you'll hit menopause and your period will stop and hooray, life will be great.
Right. It's almost like, hooray, hooray. Yes. All right.
Yeah.
And what? And then, because I was listening to another physician on another podcast, and she was saying how what happens is that if you look at the research that has been done for women's health, and she was on a men's health podcast, and she was saying, if you were to look up men and hormones per se, just that category alone, you could probably, I know if you do a US search for like PubMed, or just not even US, you just do a PubMed search, you could probably find about 50,000 articles. You do that same search for women, you may find 2,000. So the disparity is huge, because when I was talking to Dr. Carrie Jones, even, she said a lot of women were excluded from research years ago because of our cycles, because they could not confine that particular factor. So when you're doing research, you do want to have control groups, you want to have your group that you're testing, and you want to be able to control certain confounding factors.
Yeah.
And because everybody's cycle, kind of does its own thing, I mean, we have a bit of a blueprint, but everybody's unique and different. And so now you have the follicular phase, you have the ovulation, you have your luteal phase. So now how does this look? How does this impact your cardiovascular system? How does this impact your neurotransmitters? How does this impact your gut? How does it impact your thyroid? How does it impact your adrenals? There is a whole lot of interplay that we are not privy to, and so the conversations just get muted.
Yes, thank you for shining the light on that so clearly, because it's a conversation that I have a lot, and it is, I understand, right? Academically, I understand from the research perspective that when you're looking for consistent results, women are not your ideal test subjects.
Right. That needs to change.
100%. And the shift that is possible in this change is really individualized medicine, where we are looking at the human, and in this conversation that we are having, the woman who is in front of us. Yes. And yes, we can have some foundational knowledge about general trends that we see across populations, and we have to be willing to accept that every woman's journey and experience is going to be completely different. And so we have to focus on that one human.
Yes. Oh, you are speaking my language. Yes, you are preaching to the choir, as we would say.
Yes.
Because that is so true. Medicine is an art. We have to realize that. And when you say it's an art, there are, like you said, some foundational materials that we build from. And then we also understand that there are nuances. So we need to understand that there are so many different symptoms that can show up in a perimenopausal and a menopausal woman. I have a friend, I call her, she's one of my super friends, I call her. Her name is Andrea Donsky, and she's a menopause nutritionist. And she and her team have done surveys for women. They have surveyed almost 5,000 women. And to date, they were doing symptom surveys, and they actually excavated about 103 symptoms for women in this phase. Whereas we talk about just what, 3 basic symptoms: hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness. And so what has happened is women and society feels, oh, if you don't have these symptoms, you never went through menopause. I'm like, excuse me, no, that's not true. Right? That is so not true.
Yes.
You know, I also believe that we have to understand that, menopause, I say, is 12, we learn that it's 12 consecutive months without a period. Some people say 12 months and 1 day. I call you postmenopausal. I personally stopped using that label because I found when women said they were postmenopausal, they felt that they were finished something and they were going back to how their bodies used to work. And that this was just this little glitch in the system. It was almost like a glitch, and now the glitch is over, and okay, I'm back. Right? And I'm like, no. You are in a whole new phase. You will spend a third of your life in this phase until you leave this world, right?
Yes.
So, understanding that, and then having a new term in our lexicon, perimenopause, I think has been very, has been something very good for us, because it does give more light on what women are going through before they go into menopause, because perimenopause can last 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 years before you go into menopause. And those are the symptoms that we deal with as we age, right? So everybody's like, oh, you're just getting older. Welcome to the club. Oh, now you're in your 40s or you're in your 50s, or this is how your body starts breaking down. It's almost like this badge of honor. And I'm like, no, wait, if you think about it, your hormones are changing. These things, these actual chemical reactions in your body may not be at the same level that they were. And so this is the manifestation of that. You have joints that hurt. You have weight that you start gaining and can't get rid of. You have foggy brain or foggy mentation. You have skin changes. Your hair starts changing. All of these physical symptoms start arising, and it's because your physiology has changed.
Yes. Yes, thank you. There are so many questions I have in my head right now. So I absolutely want to talk about postmenopause and how bodies work at that point. I also want to go back to talking about perimenopause.
Sure.
Because one of the things, when we were talking about the importance of knowing how a woman's body functions over the entire lifespan, not just in the puberty section, is what I'm curious about in this moment is the intersection of perimenopause and fertility.
Whoa. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because as we are, and I don't know, like as you were talking, I was started asking myself these questions, but as women start having children later in life, and we see fertility issues on the rise, what is the intersection of what's happening there and with perimenopause? Because as we know, it can start in our mid to late 30s.
Yes.
And when women are starting their fertility journey, sometimes at that time, what is that intersection that's happening? And how might our decisions be different if we understood how our bodies worked over in the long term?
Great questions. So I'm going to try and address them in bits.
Yes.
So yes, you can start having perimenopausal symptoms in your mid to late 30s. What I find is that a lot of women, when they come into me, it can be their progesterone is starting to drop too soon, too fast, not going as high as it used to, or that it should. Starting to have testosterone changes. And so it can show up as I'm not sleeping, or my weight, or my cycle starts changing. And so those are some of the symptoms that you can come in with. Interestingly, I believe that you're correct that there could be what we may have said is infertility or fertility challenges could be that intersection of actually your body starting to go into this transition. And it could be because of certain environmental factors. It
Mhm.
could be stress that is starting to push your body into this earlier, faster. It could be, exposure to hormone disruptors through our food or through the environment. So, yes, yes, and
Mhm.
is what I like to say now is yes, it could be what some reproductive endocrinologists would say is what they see on a consistent basis, or what they see as a garden variety that comes into their office. And we could say on our end as perimenopausal menopausal specialists, yeah, it's what we see as well that comes into our office. Because
Mhm.
I do have some women that come in that that want to have another or want to have their first, and when I do look at their hormones, I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's start addressing or adjusting. And it could be what they needed to be supportive for their body to be able to have a fertilized egg. Now,
Mhm.
that's not always the case,
Yeah.
right? But there is probably some great overlap. That Venn diagram probably does have that overlap. Absolutely.
Mhm. And again, we want to make sure and I want to be clear that I'm like, again, every woman is going to be totally different.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And there is no judgment in any of my statements. It just is, the questions
Thoughts. Yeah.
and the repercussions of not knowing how our bodies actually work and what is happening in them at different stages
Yes.
of their lives.
Yes. Yes.
Right. And that's where really the advocacy and the empowerment
Mhm.
is knowing and being able to make decisions about your own body. And
Yes.
at this juncture in time that we are at, and again, another intersection of politics and women's health, yeah, the more we are empowered
Mhm.
in knowing how our bodies work, the more we can go into spaces with well researched questions,
Mhm.
requests,
Mhm.
positions, and be able to advocate.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad that you said this and said it that way. I say to patients all the time, I'm like, you can fire your doctor, right? Like, so go in. And if you are not feeling a partnership where you can sit and safely give your concerns and feel as if you are really being heard, and this person, so I tell patients, you know the destination you want to get to. You're like, look, I feel X, Y, and Z. I don't want to feel this anymore, or I want better sleep, or I want, tell me what your goal is, what your end goal is, right? And so I just happen to know the GPS coordinates. I know how to get there. So you tell me what's going on. I can help you figure this out, and we can get there together. And
Mhm.
that is the way that I approach this. It is definitely okay, we need to work, we need to partner together
Yes.
and get there together. Because, like you said, going back to this individualized approach, everybody's route is going to be just a little different.
Mhm. And one of the things, when you position it in this way, that perimenopause and menopause can do is awaken you to the wisdom of your own body.
Mhm.
Right? Where for so long we have been taught that not to trust the wisdom, not to trust the experience, not to trust our own inherent knowledge,
Yeah.
but to give our bodies over to others who have the knowledge because we're not capable of knowing or understanding, right? Where because this is so unique to every woman, it is essential that
Yes.
we trust what our body is telling us
Yes.
and feel confident in communicating that
Yes.
to practitioners who can give us the GPS coordinates.
Yes, 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 absolutely, absolutely. Just being able to know, okay, this is what's going to happen. It may not happen to me. Like everybody doesn't get night sweats. Everybody doesn't get the brain fog. Everybody, but oh, okay, so there can be changes in my body that appear to come out of nowhere. Is what we need to understand. So
Uh-huh.
one day when I am having itchy ears, or my skin starts feeling different, or I start having vertigo, or I start smelling something that nobody else can smell, or all these other changes, or my hair looks like something's different, the texture is different, or my body temperature has changed. Know that these are symptoms that indicate, oh, how old am I now? Okay, they did say that something could be happening around this time. So I need to either figure out, okay, am I comfortable? Do I need some help? Do I need to address this? And how do I address it? And who do I go to talk about this?
Yes. And the who do I go to is really important. And on a personal note, can I just say, what is with the itchy ears? My ears are like, I am constantly wanting to scratch from the inside out. It makes me crazy. What causes that? What is that?
So my theory is that the mucous membranes that are inside the ears is like the same mucous membranes that's kind of like down in the purse nut area down there. And when we
Okay.
start dropping our estrogen, we start losing that hyaluronic acid, that plumpiness, that hydration. And so that's what I think is the issue.
Well, there are vaginal treatments. There are things we need that for the ears too, because it's making me crazy.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I know I'm not alone, which is
No,
why
you're
I
not. No, you are not. No, you're not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the who you can reach out to for help, right? This is an area where I think there is and perhaps it's because of the space that we live in. And I think there's a lot of hope in that there is this um, new focus
Mhm.
on perimenopause and menopause, which is necessary and important. And so there is a growing body of wisdom. And how do you help people? Because there's lots of good information. There's lots of misinformation.
Yeah.
So when people come to me, often they'll say that I heard this and I heard this and I heard this, and everything contradicts each other. So how do I know what the best information is? And how do you guide people through that conversation?
Oh, yes. There is the two-edged sword of the technology age, right? Of the information age. It is amazing that I have a computer in the palm of my hand. It's amazing that I don't have to go to the library and go search through microfiche and go through old articles, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing that my children can do research in the comfort of their own home, and I don't have to, trudge them to the library to and fro, or, things like that. It's also very disheartening to be able to have people that are, disingenuous, to provide information that has not been based on any type of reading of research. And
Yes.
so when patients come to me and they said, I've done my research, I do not discount them.
Mm.
I listen, and then I also give them more. I give them another source. I give them another source, which is okay, let me tell you where we as physician and practitioners go, which is Google Scholar. So there are great blogs out there. There are great people, people that give their own personal journey and tell you what has worked for them. And go look at the research. Look at what we're saying is out there. There's so much. There is, even though we can expand it, like I just said in the beginning, there's still a nice starting point.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll say, make sure that your sources are credible. That's what I say.
Yes.
Do your due diligence, make sure you know who's telling you what, and then find somebody that says, hey, I've done some extra studying. I've gone and done some extra work like myself. And I actually am telling you, I'm an integrative doctor. Specifically for me, I'm an integrative gynecologist and I deal with perimenopause and menopausal women, which says I've done some extra studying. I have done the research in terms of looking at the papers. I've broken down the WHI study. I understand why we have misinformation out there. I
Yeah.
can help guide you as to what to put together to help make sense for you. So,
Yes.
so that's what I would say is make sure your sources are credible sources.
Absolutely. And what you said at the end also is usually where I start with people. So when you said what is right for you, if someone comes to me with a source and that source says this is the way and it is the only way,
Right.
that is my first indication of hold on. Let's not throw all our eggs into this
Thank you.
all our dusty eggs in this one
One
basket.
bag, right? Exactly. I say the same thing because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I had when social media, we're out there because people need to know who you are.
Yes.
And I posted something one time, I think it was on TikTok, and another doc stitched it and it was not flattering, right?
Okay.
And
Mhm.
I was a little taken aback. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on." And so
Mhm.
I came back and I did another one follow up and actually put my sources in the TikTok to say, I'm not just one of these people that says, "Oh, only do X, Y, and Z." I
Okay.
actually say there are a lot of tools out here for you. You have to pick which one is right for you.
Uh-huh.
That's what I look for too. If somebody says to you, "Oh, off the bat, don't do this," or "this is wrong for everybody," or "you can only do no, here are all the options that we're looking at. Now,
Yes.
of course, people talk about you don't want to confuse the market, you don't want to confuse your person that's coming to get, your customer or whatever. I understand that. I also want you to understand as a patient that there are so many different options out there, and I need to present all of them to you because an informed person makes the right decision for them. An
Yes.
informed refusal is just as important as informed consent.
Ooh, say that again.
Oh, I said informed refusal is just as important as informed consent.
Yes.
Because you need to have all the information for yourself and you need to say, okay, this is something that feels right for me. This is something that's right. No, I don't believe that would work for me. Let me take this off the shelf right now. Let me see how this combination of these particular tools will work for me. I'm not giving everybody a hammer.
Yes. Yeah. And that goes back to what we were saying about believing and trusting that we are capable, right?
Yeah.
We are capable. We are very like, thoughtful creatures and we are capable of holding multiple options, right? We
Yes.
are capable of knowing all of the information and then looking at it and going, this is what's available. I
Absolutely.
tried this, didn't feel good, didn't work.
Right. Right.
Tried this, that felt great. So
Yes.
knowing and again, trusting the wisdom of our bodies with skilled practitioners and guides around us to help us
Yes.
because
Yes.
we were never meant to do this alone.
Not at
That's
all.
the other piece. Like, do not feel like you are only successful at this if you do it all independently.
Yes.
Yes.
That piece. that you have to do this in silence, that
Yes.
you have to do this gracefully and come out every day and look all put together, and you're struggling.
Yes. Yeah.
No, no, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this with each other. Let's say, hey, yeah, I'm feeling really sad now, and this is not me. Or it's hard for me to get out the bed right now. Or you know what I found? I found this, and this actually made me feel better. And you know what? I also I combined it with this. Oh, what about this? Have you tried that? This type of an exchange. And some people say, well, it didn't work for me. Okay, that's fine. It didn't work for you. Doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just wasn't for you.
Exactly. And the more that we can be real and honest about that, the more we can move through this with a sense of, well, one, a sense of humor. When you're when you're doing this alone, it can be scary and overwhelming and intense. But when you have a community around you, you're able to see yourself in someone else's experience.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You're able to, like you said, you can support someone who's having a similar experience, and you can also validate the people who are having a totally different one. Like I will, like, it very vulnerably say, I had to do that for myself this weekend because I'm at this place in my life where it's like all of the cards that I used to build this like house of cards that has been the structure of my life for the last 20 years. Like, I'm gonna get emotional about it. It's like I just threw them all up in the air, and I'm waiting to see where they land, because everything that has made my daily life what it was is completely changing. And come September, like both of my children are going to university at the same time in September. So we will be instant empty nesters. We have property for sale. I changed my career, like literally everything. And I spent this weekend just in this space of like deep grief and mourning. And as you know, as practitioners, often we're like, that like you don't need to be in this space. But the truth is, yes, I do.
Yes.
I do need to be in this space. What I did have on my side with the information was knowing, like, well, what's the one thing I really need to do right now? Right now, I need to reach out to my community. Which is what I did. So I sent a really vulnerable message. And I was like, hey, friends, we haven't seen each other in a really long time. We used to really support each other when our kids were little. As they got older, we sort of things fray because you're going different directions. But I need you now. Desperately.
That is so strong. And that's what being strong really means. We talk about being strong women. We talk about, putting on this cape and this S on our chest. And we feel that means I do it by myself, or that's what the translation kind of implies, right?
Yes.
But being strong actually says, I need some help.
Yeah.
I need something to help pour back into my cup because I'm empty. And when we do that, it actually stimulates chemical reactions that start here in the brain that literally send signals down to the thyroid, to the adrenals, to the ovaries, to your gut, so that you can start feeling these shifts in your body.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what happened.
Yeah. That shift of state, right, is so powerful, because when we get into that space of panic or fear or chronic stress, we start to get into that space of like, well, there's nothing I can do, but it is that shift of state. And thank you for attaching the language of what is actually happening in the body.
Yeah.
Because many of us, I know, we need our brains to be convinced. This is legit. This is real.
Yes. Oh, I say all the time, we need to reconnect the head to the body.
Yes.
We need to understand that things start here. Literally, you have chemical reactions, you have nerve impulses that go down neurons that send a signal so that you literally have a neurotransmitter, a chemical spew out. And then it's a relay station. It's like, okay, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And this is where I say, if we would reconnect the head to the body, if we would
Yes.
understand that you are a whole person, then this is where we can start that conversation and we can say, there are true chemical reactions that happen. And then it's my job, I feel, as a medical interpreter to help you connect the symptoms to what's going on in your body.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that now I validate what's happening with you.
Absolutely. And it's part of the reason why menopause hormone therapy can be really helpful and supportive. And this is one of the areas where there is so much misinformation
Yes.
that I have women coming to me asking me this question on a pretty regular basis. And it's usually from a negative perspective, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
what can I do to help myself
Without, right.
without, right?
Oh, same. I get a lot.
Yes.
Yes. Get that a lot. I get that a lot. And I say, what has happened is you have the WHI study that came out that actually had to stop its hormonal arm prematurely. And this was a study that had 3 different arms to it. So you had the hormonal arm, you had the lifestyle arm, you had the supplement arm. And over 40 centers participated in this study and got funding for this. There was like 166,000 women collectively in the studies, in the 3 different arms. And what appeared to happen was that there looked to be an increased risk of breast cancer that halted the study, that said, oh, we need to stop it. What ended up happening after that is that medicine does not have a good PR team. We just don't. And an epidemiologist is the person that went on national television to try and break down the study. And that came across with a lot of numbers and a lot of statistics, and it made things sound really big and scary. And yes, we thought we saw this increased risk. I was like, yes, take the warning, go and heed the warning. What we did not do was say, first of all, this looked at synthetic hormones. This looked at hormones. For one, the estrogen came from horse urine. The progesterone was a synthetic and was made. So these were made to look like your hormones, not look like, I should say it this way. These were made they were like taking the master key and making a copy of it, but it wasn't quite the actual key. But it
Right.
could go in and it could unlock. It could go into the receptors and it could stimulate progesterone receptors. It could stimulate estrogen receptors, but they were not like what your body actually. Now we also had to say, hey, the average woman that we looked at, the average age was 63 years and older. They had a known cardiovascular event. And what they were trying to do was say, hey, could we prevent another event from happening? Could we prevent osteoporosis? Could we prevent, certain types of breast cancer? What could we do here? And their main goal was looking at cardiovascular outcomes. And what appeared to happen was that there was this increased risk of breast cancer. They just reanalyzed the statistics in 2000 and I think it was 2022 or 2021 and found there was no statistical significance of increased risk of breast cancer. So we have to get that out there that, well, we thought there was, but really your risk of just being a woman, it was no increased risk over that, just being a woman. Okay.
Yeah.
We also have to say those were synthetics. It was progestins. Okay. Then there was an increased risk of blood clots with the estrogen, the conjugated equine estrogen. Now we have bioidentical, which means they look just like what your body makes. And they come from organic sources. So we're not trying to take another type of source, mainly an animal source, and actually mimicking and look and trying to just give it the ability to stimulate the receptor. But we're also making what your body looks at and goes, oh, I know what this is. I know exactly. This is progesterone. This is a bioidentical progesterone. I'm going to break this down. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to send this over to the kidneys. I'm going to send this over to the liver. I'm going to send this over to the gut. Okay, everybody do what they need to do and then wash out the system. And there are ways to actually give you these bioidenticals. We're learning transdermally through the skin is the best way. There are some oral options, especially for progesterone. But when you're talking about estradiol or even testosterone, transdermal is usually the route to go. That being a cream, or for men, sometimes even for some women, they may even do injections, or even a pellet therapy is an option. And
Okay.
this is where the conversations really get, you have to figure out which one is right for you and what is the dose that is right for you. And how does are your detoxification pathways open? Is your gut healthy enough to tolerate this load? All of these questions need to be answered.
Thank you. Thank you for breaking that down, because I talk about it a lot, not with as much knowledge and skill as you, because I'm learning it from other sources. But that piece is so powerful. And I remember I was listening to Dr. Peter Attia talk about this
Mm.
study and how more women ended up dying from broken hips
Yeah.
because of stopping taking the hormones, which ended up in higher bone fragility. So it is so crucial that we know and understand this information and start peeling back the thought that menopause hormone therapy is just terrible.
Right, right. And so I say it's another tool.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, how is your body going to be able to process it? So it's not a miracle solution. Like, we still need to have the lifestyle aspects in place.
Yeah.
Sleep, stress management, nutrition, and movement.
Yes.
They,
Yes.
I,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And the
Yep.
more they work together, the better we can have a good transition through, and then live our post-menopausal lives in ways that feel good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. This was such a great conversation, and I look forward to continued conversation with you, because I
Yes.
feel like this is not the end.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Like I said, I can have this conversation for hours and hours and hours on end. And everybody that I go to their platform, I tell them right away, you have to tell me when it's time for us to.
Well, unfortunately for now, it is time, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey today. Your support means the world to me. If you resonated with our conversations and want to uplift the Transforming 45 community, here's what you can do. 1, subscribe and share. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value here, share it with your friends, family, and anyone seeking inspiration. 2, leave a review. On whatever platform you are listening on, your words can make a significant impact and help others find their way to these transformative stories. 3, connect. Join the conversation on my social media platforms. Follow me at lboat for updates, behind the scenes, and more heart-centered content. And 4, guest recommendations. If you know someone whose story could inspire someone else, reach out and let me know. I love connecting with diverse voices that carry the power to transform lives. Remember, it is your support that is the magic in my mission. Together, we can create a community of empowerment, growth, and healing. Thank you for being part of the Transforming 45 family. Until next time, keep shining your light and embracing your journey.